If you want to be wealthy and achieve financial freedom, this mortgage loophole will allow you to save and invest thousands of dollars. The American dream, something sold to us by banks so that we'll continue working forever, pay them a bunch of money and other corporations, and people will become really rich while we continue working for our employers and make them more and more rich. But at least we'll have that really nice house that we can barely afford and a family that we can sometimes see because we're still working and making that other person rich. And maybe we'll also have a nice dog and a white picket fence. What's up, guys? It's Avery here. Typically on my channel, I talk about personal finance as well as investing in real estate. And today I'm going to talk about my favorite way to build wealth and one of the best mortgage loopholes that you could ever do in your life in order to build wealth and achieve that financial freedom and make sure that you don't work for the rest of your life and get your money to work hard for you. The standard way that most Americans and middle class folks go ahead and try to build their wealth is through purchasing a property. It's seen as one of the largest investments that you can make, but from the bank's perspective, it is something that allows them to make cash flow off of you every single month. And with this mortgage loophole, instead of you making the bank richer, you can make yourself richer through getting other people to pay your mortgage for you instead of you having a really high monthly housing payment that you can barely afford. So then you're attached to this 9-to-5 job and have to keep working it for 40, 50 years because you need to save up enough money so you can actually retire and hopefully enjoy your life by the time you're 65. So instead of dreaming for that white picket fence and that house that you can barely afford, you should purchase a house hack. A house hack is simply a property that you could move into just the same way that you would buy a house that might be over your budget, but instead of you buying your dream home and overextending yourself and going way up to your pre-approval amount and not really being able to afford that budget, even though the bank says that you can purchase a condo, a single family, or a 2 to 4 unit small multifamily building, and you can do so with a 3.5% down payment. And the beauty with this is you can use that FHA loan and have your 3.5% down payment, and whether you're in a condo or single family, you can rent out the excess rooms, and if you're in a small multifamily building, you can still rent out the excess rooms, but you can also rent out the other units in the building that you've acquired. A very common example of this would be with a duplex, and people will live in one side and rent out the other, and hopefully the rent from that other unit will cover your entire mortgage. Now, if you're able to cover your entire mortgage with the rents that you're receiving, I'd say you've done a very good job. If you can cover your entire mortgage plus the expenses like maintenance and upkeep and other vacancy costs that might come up when you own a rental property, then you're doing an amazing job. And if you're able to cover your mortgage as well as all of those expenses and make profit over everything, then you are pretty much just doing the best possible thing that you could ever do with your life. And you could probably live in that property forever and never have to work and still have a house over your head and make enough money to live for the rest of your life. Depending on where you are might determine which type of property that you actually purchase, because maybe you live in an area where there really only are single family homes or condos, or you could live in an area that's littered with a bunch of small multifamilies. Like in the Northeast, there's a ton of small multifamily properties, but as you move to the Southeast, where things have traditionally been less expensive and there's more space, there is going to be less multifamily properties and more single family homes. And if you can only find a single family home, no big deal. This strategy can still work very well. But if you can find yourself in a 4-unit building, I think that would be your best bet, because you live in 1 unit, you have the other 3 to rent out, and that most likely will be where you're actually going to be making money and not just covering your mortgage and your expenses. The other great thing about having more and more units is you have more hedge against risk. If you have one of those tenants move out and that place is vacant, you would still have 2 other units covering a lot of your mortgage costs as well as your expenses. Even if you're in a duplex and you have 1 other unit that you're renting out and maybe 1 other bedroom in your own unit, you still have the hedge of your income, your roommate's income, plus the income of the other unit to cover your entire mortgage, rather than back to that very first example, the American dream, where you're relying only on your own income in order to cover the mortgage. This way you have a lot less risk rather than just relying on yourself and your boss and your employer not firing you. And the great thing about this strategy is when you put this low money down amount, you only have to live in the property for 1 year. Normally with an investment property, obviously you don't have to move in, but instead of putting 3.5% down for a 2 to 4 unit small multifamily, you have to put 25% down. 3.5% versus 25% is a massive difference from a price point and allowing you to get into investing in real estate. Often people think you need a ton of money to invest into real estate. This is why this is the #1 strategy for building your wealth, because you can put as little as that 3.5% down. And the great caveat here is after that 1 year of living there, you can move out and rent it out completely. And so if you do this a couple of times, say you did this 3 times, you're spending in a down payment alone half the amount you would for an investment property. And the best part of it here is that you get a much lower interest rate because this is seen as your primary residence. And if it's your primary residence, you always will get a better interest rate than if it's an investment property, usually by around a percentage point. Plus, there are typically a lot lower closing costs and other benefits that you get from being a homeowner. So you can see how powerful this could be. Instead of going out and attempting to achieve that American dream that's taught to us and having a $2,000 or $3,000 monthly mortgage payment that you are just giving every single dollar that you have towards, you will now have a $0 monthly mortgage payment because someone else is paying it for you. If you're able to free up $2,000 or $3,000 every single month, think about the amount of things that you could do. And I don't just mean going and buying more stuff. Eventually you can have those things, but I think we're here to talk about delayed gratification. You could take that extra $2,000, $3,000 and you could buy another property. You could take that extra $2,000, $3,000 every single month and invest in the S&P 500 or invest into a low-cost index fund, and you become a millionaire or a multi-millionaire far faster than if you had that extra mortgage payment every single month. But now you don't, and you have so much cash freed up, and you can become very wealthy very fast. And it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Yes, I did say it's a very fast way to build wealth. This is more of a 5 to 10 year way to build wealth rather than a 40 to 50 year way, which we're normally taught about in that American dream standard, where we are going to continue to work, we are going to pay into that 401k. We're going to have that monthly housing payment. We're not going to be as fast to be able to retire or do what we want or have financial freedom than if we were able to just do this one thing. And if you're able to afford to buy a house, you are able to afford to buy a house hack. And many people really don't want to do this because they're thinking they have to manage tenants, they have to deal with people. But it's really not that much work. I have multiple properties at this point in my life, 5 units that I completely rent out, and I do roughly 3 to 5 hours every single month on those properties when it comes to managing, doing accounting, and a little bit of work. And I also live 1,000 miles away from 2 of those properties, and I really don't have to do that much. I never have to go there. I actually haven't been to both properties in over a year, and everything is still working fine because I have good contacts, I have automated systems, and things just go smoothly, and I get my rent on the first of the month without hassling any tenants. So now that I've ingrained this strategy into your head, showed you that it's very possible, very easy to do, and something you can do while working a full-time job, because that's something I do, and I still work a full-time job. It doesn't take a crazy amount of hours. It's a little bit stressful to start up in your first 3 to 6 months of owning the property, but once it's going, it can be very easy and very lucrative, and you could have a cash flowing rental property for life. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the examples of some of the properties that I bought. So the very first property I ever bought was a duplex just outside of Boston in a town called Everett, Massachusetts. So that duplex was a 2-bed, 1-bath on the bottom, a 4-bed, 1-bath on top, and my mortgage was $3,300. And I was getting $2,400 a month of rent from the upstairs unit, that 4-bedroom. I had a roommate who was living with me paying $800, and my girlfriend was also living with me, and she was paying me $400 a month. So I was receiving $3,600 a month with my $3,300 a month mortgage. And I wasn't able to cash flow, even though I was making more money than the mortgage, but I was covering expenses and utilities. After a year of ownership of that property, I refinanced because you can't have 2 FHA loans in your name at a time. Although it's not a first-time homebuyer program, you can't have multiple of them. So you can use it again, but you just can't have multiple. Although there are certain circumstances where you can have multiple, like if you had a divorce or if you were moving from one area to another because you had a job. And so they allow you to get a second one, but it's definitely a lot more rare. So I was able to refinance out of my FHA loan into a conventional loan and then buy another property only 14 months after having bought my first one. Again, I was able to acquire that 3-family property with an FHA loan at 3.5% down, and it had a 1-bedroom studio as well as a 2-bedroom upstairs, and the 2-bedroom was paying me $1,800 a month, the studio $1,500 a month, and my girlfriend $400 a month, and that was enabling me to be able to not have a monthly mortgage payment because my monthly mortgage payment was $3,900. So it was completely covered, even though you could do that math and notice that that was only $3,700. But the very first month that I moved in, my tenants were already there, so I was given a $3,300 paycheck at closing from the amount of rent that I was receiving because I closed on the first of the month. And that amount of money covered my $200 a month for over a year, and I only lived there for a year, so technically I did live for free and have the mortgage covered the entire time, although I did have to cover things like the water bill and other expenses. And with the third property that I'm currently living in, I bought a single family house because I'm now in one of those areas where there really isn't that many multifamily properties and there weren't really any for sale. So I was able to buy this single family property, and it has a detached garage. And right now I'm going through the process of doing a bunch of renovations on my single family so that I can create enough equity in the property, and I plan to take out a home equity line of credit on this property and then use that so that I can finish out that detached garage. And then I'll rent out that detached garage, most likely on a short-term platform or to traveling nurses, because I'm close to a lot of hospitals where I live, and have that cover the entire mortgage and probably a lot more. And I also am in a 2-bed, 2-bath house, and I theoretically could rent out the other room. Right now I don't, because I'm sitting in the other room and I use it as a YouTube studio, so it just makes it easier for me because I can make a little bit more money on social media than the amount of rent that I could get from this room. Hopefully I was able to show you that this is a really good strategy to allow you to build your wealth quickly as well as achieve financial freedom. And if you want to learn more, you can go ahead, click the link below so you can learn how to live for free and house hack your way to financial freedom. And if you guys like that video and you want to learn more tips on investing in real estate and other personal finance topics, make sure you go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And on your way there, go ahead and hit that like button so I can push this video out to more people so more people can build their wealth, because that is why I'm here. I want to teach people how to build their wealth, and I want people to know that there's room for everybody to build their wealth, because there are so many properties out there, so many opportunities for people to house hack those properties and live for free. And if you guys also like this video, make sure you tap that notification bell so you don't miss out when I make videos like these ones. And if you like me here, don't forget to check me out on TikTok as well as Instagram. I make a lot of similar videos, but also in short form. So thanks again for watching, and more wealth is coming your way.